Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry, and today I'm going to be going through every single Chicago Bears game this season. I'm going to give you the winner and the loser, a score prediction, and I'm going to break down a little bit of what I think is going to happen in the game. Obviously, it's way too early, but I do want to go through every single team very early before the season starts. I'm still going to have my weekly picks and my overview of every game, so that'll still be happening. I'll have power rankings, so that's all going to be the same. I just wanted to do a way too early prediction. And we're going to start off with the NFC North and the Chicago Bears. Obviously, if you follow my page, you'll see a lot of Chicago Bears content. And it just made sense to start with the NFC North. We'll go north, south, east, west, and then move over to the AFC. But I am going to be doing every team. So don't just watch the Bears, watch the other ones. You'll get a lot of good insight on other teams and what may come this season. Had a pretty good record last year as far as my predictions. Didn't do any this early, but I think this will go well. So comment down below what you think the Bears record will be. We'll see just shortly here what I think it's going to be, as well as like and subscribe for more. Again, 32 videos coming out, one for each team, predicting the score of every game and every team's record. So let's get right into week one. I have game one because I forgot to put the bye week in, so all of them are just going to say the game of the season. We'll go over the weeks exactly at the end, and then obviously we got the time in the middle. So Bears-Titans, I've got the Bears winning this one. I have Caleb getting off to a little bit of a slower start. I think the Titans are going to be a very different team this year. You're looking at no more Derrick Henry. They acquire a guy in Calvin Ridley, as well as Tony Pollard, Tyler Boyd, L'Jarius Sneed. So a lot of additions, but a very different style of play. Will Levis is going to have to step it up and be the guy. They also draft J.C. Latham to help that offensive line that definitely needed it, as well as T'Vondre Sweat to hopefully help the trenches on the other side of the ball. But I have the Bears winning this one 17-13. I think Caleb gets off to a fairly slow start for the Bears, and I think they're going to be working on that. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, the connection between everybody. And I don't think it's going to be super polished week one. I think the same things for the Titans. It's just a noon game. Bears are at home, so I think Bears can definitely get the win. I just think the Titans' start is going to be a little more shaky, so I have them winning. And then the Bears go to Houston for the next game. If you look, the home team's always going to be on the left side, home and away. This is the retro scoreboard that I'm using here. That's how they are. So I got the Texans winning 24-13. Bunch of huge additions for the Texans. Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, Jeff Okudah, who we'll see what happens with him. But a lot of huge additions, and the defensive coordinator, or now head coach, D'Amico Ryans, he's been the head coach last year, but former defensive coordinator, has been doing great things with that team, and even had a guy move on, and Jonathan Grenard go over to Minnesota, made him look great and have one of his best seasons so far. So I think probably going to be able to do the same thing, if not more, with Danielle Hunter. And I think it's just going to be a big season for the Texans. There was a lot of hype and excitement around them last year, and they add a lot of pieces. They still have C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley. So they're going to be a great football team, and I have the Texans taking down the Bears 24-13. Moving on to the Colts. This one's going to be interesting. I think this is going to be very, very dependent on injuries. I think if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, I think that'll help. You could also have Joe Flacco come in, who was a great quarterback and showed that he could fill in. I just don't think the Colts have done enough defensively. You're going to be the third week in of Caleb, probably starting to build a rapport with the receivers and get some sort of chemistry going. Probably not, the best chemistry, but there will be something formed there, and I don't think the Colts have a good enough defense to be able to stop all the weapons that are on the Bears offense in DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen. They've had DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze. The offensive line has been playing better, although a lot of people don't think. The Bears offensive line has been good because Justin Fields would hold on to the ball longer than any other quarterback in the NFL. I think not something you can sleep on. So I think the Bears take down the Colts here, 24-14. Like I said, I think injuries could be a determining factor. I think Joe Flacco's a fine backup, but you do have Anthony Richardson, who's had injury issues. You have Jonathan Taylor, who's had injury issues. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I got the Bears taking down the Colts 24-14. Bears Rams. This one I was not sure. I could go back and forth all day long. I think the Rams really could win this one. I ultimately just ended up picking the Bears to win. I think is probably the closest matchup of all the games this year. Just as far as, Rams were looking really good last year. They make some additions through the draft and through free agency to help their defense, which is big time, losing Aaron Donald. But you still have Matt Stafford on offense if he can stay healthy. You've got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyren Williams, who had a standout year last year. Both of their fifth-round draft picks, Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams, did great last year. So I think that's going to be difficult to stop. They also add Tre'Davious White on defense. But ultimately, I have the Bears winning because the Bears, through those last 6 games, were the number 1 defense in the league. And if they can just carry over some of that, they didn't really need to make any big additions on defense. Obviously, they acquire Kevin Byard to fill in for Eddie Jackson, who, although did have a good prime, he's a little older and just was not performing. I don't think he's on a team now. I still think he's a free agent. So I would look at that as an upgrade, and I think the Bears defense is just going to be too much. Rams will find ways to score. Like we talked about, Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, they're all still there. So I think you're going to see points scored, but I think the Bears will win just by a little bit. So I got 24-23 over the Rams. Bears-Panthers, this one's pretty easy. Obviously, the big draft pick for the Panthers, Xavier Legette. I love him. I thought he was awesome, and I thought it was a perfect fit. It's very exciting. They still have Adam Thielen, so that helps Bryce Young a little bit. I don't think that they made enough changes on the offensive line. I feel like that was actually more of a problem for the Panthers. You also still just have Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. So not necessarily a lot that the Panthers could do with not having a first-round draft pick. Obviously, they trade into the first round to get Legette, and the tackles were off the board too. So it's kind of a difficult situation for the Panthers there. I just don't think their team's very good. And obviously, when you have the worst record in the league and you don't have a lot of picks to turn that around, it's going to make it difficult. I have the Bears taking down the Panthers 31-12. And you notice I have the Bears winning a lot. There's a few win streaks in here. But I have them going to London, having this 8:30 a.m. game and losing to the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars obviously lose Calvin Ridley, big name, but he was getting older. Not that he was performance was going down at all, but I don't think they really upgraded there. They definitely still downgraded. They add Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr., but you lose Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley. So we'll see how that works. I think Gabe Davis is a fine 2, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. has a lot of potential. You still have Christian Kirk. You still have Evan Ingram. You still have Travis Etienne. So there's a lot of talent over there. Josh Allen on the defensive line, Eric Armstead, Foyesade Oluokun. They're all phenomenal defenders too. So Foyesade typically leads the league in tackles and flies around the field. And I think that the Jaguars being more accustomed to going to London, I think that's going to be their biggest benefit there. That's going to help them end up getting the win. So I don't think that their team has necessarily improved by a lot or gotten a lot worse. I just think that their consistency being in London, they have 2 games this year, and they've had more games than every other team because they're kind of the team of London at this point. So I think that is going to give them an advantage. You've got Caleb Williams, who's a rookie quarterback, and you'll have Rome Odunze, potentially starting too. I think it's going to be a big adjustment, and I see the Jaguars winning this one, and just not a lot of scoring, to tell you the truth. Maybe it could go the other way, but we'll see what happens. I got the Jaguars taking down the Bears 17-13. Then moving on to the Commanders Bears, who historically in these last few years have had just shit fests. They have not been good games, and I guess last year there was a little more scoring. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I liked what Dan Quinn's done with the defense in Washington, making a lot of additions in mainly just Cowboys players, but you have Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler Jr., Durance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Ertz, and then they also acquire Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, Luke McCaffrey, and then the big one, obviously, Jaden Daniels. So a lot of changes over there in Washington, and I think that could be enough, for them to even be competitive, especially if the Bears get off to a rocky start and Caleb Williams isn't looking like this tremendous prospect that he was supposed to be. The Commanders, they retain Scary Terry. They have Brian Robinson still, who I think is a fine running back, Jahan Dotson, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and then even Emmanuel Forbes had some good games last year. So I think the Commanders, could actually compete. It's really going to depend on how the Bears start goes and how the Commanders start goes, because Commanders also did have a lot more changes than the Bears, so you can look at it that way too. But I have the Bears taking them down 14-10. Next, we have the Cardinals-Bears. I have the Cardinals losing, getting smoked by the Bears here. I don't think they made enough changes. You get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Zay Jones, which definitely is a benefit in the wide receiver department. Didn't really make too many improvements on the offensive line, so I see that being a problem. I think Kyler Murray's still going to be running for his life. And then as far as defense goes, the only addition you really make is Justin Jones. And I think there were some other depth pieces. But from Justin Jones coming from the Chicago Bears, who is just a fine defensive lineman, a bit of a hybrid where you could run him on the inside or on the outside of the defensive line. And of course, you have Zaven Collins, you have Budda Baker, and then you have Garrett Williams, who didn't really get a lot of opportunities to play last year, being injured, and probably didn't live up to the hype. He was fine, but just nothing super special. So I got the Bears taking down the Cardinals 27-14 in Arizona. And then the Bears come back home to play the Patriots. This is another case where I don't know if the Patriots did enough to get a lot better. Obviously, you get Drake May. There was some pictures with Tom Brady and Drake May together that just came out recently. So maybe Tom Brady will be able to help Drake May be more like Tom Brady, but I don't think so. I don't think so too early. I think Drake May has a lot of potential. And I also don't know if Drake May is going to play in this game. If Jacoby Brissett is going to start, I think if he starts off well, you probably stick with him, and then maybe Drake May sits for a whole year. That's kind of what I recommended. You're hearing a lot of these bigger news media people saying that the sit for a year is bogus and you don't need to do it and they need to get away from that. I can't say that I necessarily believe that, because there's still people that are having success doing that. And it just seems like to me from the outside looking in that there is more people that are failing, that are just getting thrown right into the fire. And like I said, I think Drake May would benefit from it. You also have Jalen Polk, who you get. But the only big names that are still around is Kendrick Bourne, Matt Judon, and Christian Gonzalez, who did look really good in the 4 games that he played last year, but he went out with an injury, and it ended up only being the 4 games. You have Kyle Duggar, who's fine, but I don't see a lot of talent. I hope Gerard Mayo can help turn the Patriots around. It'd be a great story that one of Bill Belichick's guys comes in and is able to turn the Patriots around. I just don't see it happening, and especially not by week 10 here, game 9 for the Bears. So I have the Bears winning this one 28-13. Then this is another toss-up. I'll talk about the toss-ups at the end when I show the full record that I have. But yeah, I think the Packers definitely could sweep the Bears this year. I have the Bears winning this one at home. This is still in, I believe this is November, so you're still not super cold for anybody that's concerned about Caleb, not being able to play in the cold. I think the Bears could get one at home. I just see where the Bears have improved, and I see where the Packers have improved. Only 2 major signings, but they are big ones in Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. Jair Alexander really had been kind of by himself in the defensive back room as far as the big talents. You still have Eric Stokes, who really hasn't worked out in the Packers' decline as 5th-year option. And then you have, Xavier McKinney now to help out in that defensive back room. And then as far as Rashawn Gary and Quay Walker, those are really your 2 kind of front 7 guys that are going to at least make some sort of an impact. I just don't think that I think the Bears have gotten a lot better than the Packers. And although the Packers have pretty much owned the Bears these last few years, I think this is an opportunity where the Bears could win. Like I said, I think they got a lot better. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win this one, but I have the Bears winning 24-21. And then moving on, staying in Chicago, but another division rival, Minnesota Vikings. This is another team where I think you're taking a huge step back, missing Kirk Cousins. And whether it's Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, I think at this point you probably should still have Sam Darnold in unless he's playing really poorly. I really haven't super hated anything that I've seen from Sam Darnold. Actually saw him make a few really good throws last year when he came in. So I don't mind Sam Darnold, and I think if he gets off to a hot start, you can't put J.J. McCarthy in. But there's also been talks that J.J. McCarthy is just going to start out right away. And if he starts out hot, then obviously you've got something to work with there. So I've got the Bears taking down the Vikings, though, 27-17. Big acquisitions for the Vikings are Dallas Turner, Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy Jr. It wasn't a trade. I think they just signed him. And then Jonathan Grenard. Obviously, we talked about him earlier, how DeMeco Ryans helped kind of elevate his career over there in Houston. Now he's got Brian Flores, who can hopefully continue that for his sake. But again, some good additions, also some subtractions. You lose Danielle Hunter was the big one. So I think we'll see what happens. I think the Vikings have a chance, but with the Bears at home, I don't think McCarthy's going to be as far along as some other people might think. So I've got the Bears winning 27-17. And then going to Detroit for Thanksgiving at 11:30, the first game, as Detroit always has. I have the Bears winning this one. Detroit's lost the last 7 Thanksgiving, I think it's divisional Thanksgiving games was the stat that I saw. So we've got a divisional Thanksgiving game for the Lions. I think they're going to continue that streak. The Bears should have swept the Lions last year. They lost one game on a bit of a choke job last year at the end of the game. Could have won both games very easily, only end up getting the one win. And I think with how much the Bears improved, obviously the Lions, you get Terrion Arnold, who I think is a big pickup in the DB room, definitely needed help there. And then, you get Marcus Davenport. But a lot of it is the same guys around. You have Jared Goff just gets a fat contract. You're going to have to pay Aiden Hutchinson next year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I believe the Lions got Chop Robinson too. So that will help on the other end of the edge, which they have desperately been looking for. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I like where the Bears are at with tackle too. So I don't think a rookie is going to have as much of an impact there. And the Bears were able to do it last year. I think the Bears have gotten better than the Lions last year, and they should have swept them. So I don't see why they can't win this one 27-21. Then this is where it goes downhill for the Bears. They play the 49ers. 49ers don't really add too many people at all. They had a couple really good draft picks. Ricky Pearsall was my favorite one. Really wanted him on the Bears. He ends up going to the 49ers a lot earlier in the draft than I thought, but I really like Ricky Pearsall. They still have all the weapons over there. This is a 325 game, so a little bit more of a national viewing for the Bears. Not too many afternoon games, unfortunately, or I should say, that middle window or late window. So 49ers, I think they're a much better team still than the Bears. 14 weeks in, I think you have a better opportunity in Chicago, but I don't even really see this to be could be the Bears. I think the 49ers have this one locked in, 28-13. Next we have the Vikings. Finally get a Sunday night game. I believe it's a Sunday night. It's Sunday night or Thursday night. I should have put that in there. But Vikings, I have them losing at home, 21-24. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is gone, so the primetime problem that he had should be gone too. But I think the Bears are a lot better team. I don't really believe in J.J. McCarthy, and I think Caleb Williams is already a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And I think in the quarterback matchup, I also think the Bears will have a better defense this year, although the Vikings do have a good defense. I just think they're lacking in their DB room, and that ends up being a big problem. And really their only good linebacker has been Ivan Pace, who was an undrafted free agent last year and a great signing for them to help that linebacker room. But I just don't think their defense is going to be enough. this is another one where I think you could make the argument that they'll get one on us, but I have the Bears sweeping the Vikings. And I also think if the Bears were going to sweep one team in our division, I think it would be the Vikings. So I got the Bears taking down the Vikings 24-21. Moving on to game 15. Again, this is where I said it went downhill for the Bears. So we have Lions taking them down. We've already talked about the matchup. I think the Lions will definitely get one. I think they could. The Lions are actually another tough one. I mentioned the Rams at potentially the closest game, but with how close the game was last year, if Caleb Williams isn't working out in this first year and he is throwing a lot of interceptions, I think you could see the Lions get a sweep. I have, the Bears splitting. I also think the Bears could sweep them very easily. So it could go either way. But I thought the Lions, the Bears are on a losing streak at this point. So I have the Lions taking down the Bears in Chicago, 21-17. And then moving on to game 16, we have the Bears and the Seahawks. This one, I really think the Bears are the better team. You have Byron Murphy II was drafted to play next to Leonard Williams, which I think is going to be super dangerous in the interior, and even just wherever they end up putting him in the defensive line. The Seahawks still have Kenneth Walker. They have Metcalf, Lockett, JSN, Devin Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. So I think they've got a lot of talent over there, and I think Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen are going to cause problems for Caleb Williams, make it very difficult. And again, Bears have kind of been on a losing streak here at this point in the season, and I think it could kind of fall apart for them. So I've got the Seahawks taking down the Bears 24-14 and getting that win on a primetime game. And then this is where I have the Packers taking down the Bears to end the season again, unfortunately, in the last game of the season, which they actually didn't put a time yet for this game. I think they're assuming it's going to get flexed with how few games the Bears and the Packers have on primetime. I think they're assuming this could be flexed. From what I've read right now, it's going to be a noon game, but it looks like it could be flexed to a primetime game. So I had to take the Packers. It's at home. This is going to be very late in the season. Anybody that thinks, Caleb Williams can't play in the colder temperatures, this is going to be the worst of the season. I don't think that is going to have a huge factor. I think there's a good chance he could play and play fine in colder temperatures. But with all that being said, I think the Packers could sweep us, or it's a split. Unfortunately, I don't think we're sweeping the Packers. So I've got the Bears losing this one 28-21 to finish out the season, which is going to be very interesting. We're going to be going over the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings too, to kind of show how the playoffs are going to work out, because I think the NFC North has turned into one of the best divisions, especially with these turnovers of quarterbacks, where you've got Jared Goff is playing better. Caleb Williams is coming in to hopefully get the job done for the Bears. Jordan Love looks like, following in the footsteps of Aaron Rodgers. And then, of course, you have, whatever the situation may be in Minnesota. But I think it's going to be really interesting, and this is where we'll go over everything. First, I'll go over Week 4, and I didn't put an asterisk next to it, but I think one of those Packers games, I think, could be a different record. I think you could end up 7-3 at that Week 11, but I put an asterisk next to that Rams game because I think that's the biggest one where I could be very wrong about it. I think the Rams could easily win that one. And then all the divisional games, I didn't want to put asterisks next to all of them, but I think in any of those division games, it could go either way. I think it is more likely that the Vikings get swept by the Bears if I was to pick a team, as I said earlier. And then I think the Bears could sweep the Lions. I think the Packers could sweep the Bears. So it's a very interesting situation there. I have the Bears ending up going 11-6. I think, obviously getting a hot start. You win against Tennessee, you lose against the Texans, then you go on a 3-game win streak, you lose a game, and then you go on a 6-game win streak, which people would say is crazy. But if you look at the matchups, you've got Washington, Arizona, New England. I don't think those are difficult games. Then you have the Packers at home. You've got the Vikings. I believe that one's at home. And then you've got the Lions away, but it's on Thanksgiving when they have historically lost. And the Bears, actually, I believe they have a better record, too, against the Lions on Thanksgiving. So I think everything kind of points to that 6-game win streak. And you could even say, like, if the Bears were to sneak a win against Jacksonville, it would be very hard to say that they wouldn't have a 6-game win streak somewhere in there. Of course, the end is where it really goes downhill, where you lose to the 49ers and then you lose out to the Vikings, to the Lions. You beat the Vikings, but then you lose to the Lions, Seahawks, and the Packers, which would make playoffs very interesting, with the Bears on a 3-game losing streak, likely going into the playoffs at 11-6. And the Bears, if you think 11-6 is ridiculous, the Bears are projected by most analysts to make the playoffs this year. And I said in one of my previous videos going over the initial reaction to the schedule release that I thought the minimum the Bears will get is probably 9-8, but I think it's very realistic to say 10-7. I think the only games you can really talk about, flipping who the winner is would be, the Lions. I think Lions splitting, I think, is a fair count. I think the Bears could win both of those. I think the Bears technically could beat the Jaguars. I think that's very possible. And I think they also could lose to the Rams. So with all that being said, and all the games that, if you go back and forth, I think it's very easy to find 9 or 10 wins for the Bears. And I think 11-6 is where they end up at. So again, let me know what you think down below. Is 11-6, is that too ambitious? Am I too high on the Bears? Am I buying into the Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, top defense through the last 6 games hype? Probably. But let me know down below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.